And we're live here on the Not a Podcast show. I am not a podcast host. My name's Sean Ongley. This is my live stream channel here on YouTube and Twitter. And I'm joined today with a very special, lovely young lady. I don't know how young she is. I don't know how old she is. We might be the same age. Am I young? I like to think I am. Anyway, very young, lovely lady. She's a yoga instructor, teacher, and social media influencer. Her name is Emily. How's it going, Emily?
Hi.
All right. How was that? Was that good enough?
That was good.
Well, I'm excited to have you here and to learn about your life all the way in LA. I call this Out to Lunch because it's noon in LA. That's really it. We are not eating, I don't think, today.
No.
No.
Well, we are going to eat today, but not on the show.
Right. You later, me earlier, when it was lunch for me.
Where are you?
I'm in Philly.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know that?
No.
Okay, that's okay. I go in cold too, for the most part. I perused around your website, and I was stoked for you. I don't know. It seems like you've put a lot of work into building your brand, your persona, and you've really committed to yourself. So congratulations on doing that. And
Thank you.
it seems like it's going well.
Yeah, it is.
Where can people find you, and what do you do?
So I teach yoga and Pilates. I teach in person at a couple studios in Los Angeles. And I also teach online. I basically started renaming my classes Body Language because my style of teaching yoga is a little bit different than traditional yoga. It's very influenced by my history as a dancer. So it's very rhythmic, very movement and flow based, and a lot of kind of atypical transitioning of movement and things like that. And so I kind of wanted to rename my class so that when people took my class, their expectations were met, you know. And then that name kind of grew into my brand, and now you can practice with me online, and my online studio is called Body Language. So
Cool. Great. Great. So, and you've built a following on Twitter. So, is that help? Oh, what's your Twitter handle and Instagram and stuff?
So A State of Emily is my handle on all of my social media. It's also my website, astateofemily.com. And that's where I have my bodysuit line that I designed and the links to my online class studio and all that kind of stuff.
I've been interviewing, including Forest Mommy, a lot of people with a lot more, our friend Forest Mommy, shout out, who have a lot more numbers than I do, following a greater following. I don't know. I appreciate that people come and do the show anyway. I guess I took the time to build a channel and create a channel. That's it. So it's just more content that you can have out there, right?
Yeah.
So, that must be working pretty well for you. I work very hard to build a following, but I don't know. It's slow for me.
I mean, Twitter's been interesting. I actually really wasn't expecting to build a following on Twitter. I started using Twitter during 2020 because I just realized that like the other platforms that I had were really not the space for me to share like kind of unconventional views, which I think are common sense and are coming from the most genuinely loving place of like my fellow humans and humanity and society and all these things. But to other people, it's like if you're not a part of the duality and picking a team and saying the popular things to say, it's like you're labeled something bad and something that you're not. And so I very quickly realized during 2020 that like my Instagram platform, my Facebook were not hospitable places for me to share my views of what was going on. So I just kind of started using my Twitter, and it just kind of grew from there. But I was like never expecting it to become what it has become now.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, similar story for me. 2020, yeah, 2020. Facebook became unruly, and I hated being there.
Mm-hmm.
None of my friends were on Twitter, so I got to make new friends on Twitter, and that essentially led me to doing these live streams. So, it's cool.
Yeah.
Twitter's still fun for some purposes. People who like to think and talk about things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I follow like DJs on Instagram who are very active on Instagram, and they spread everything there, and they have Twitter accounts that they simply don't use. It
Yeah.
just doesn't seem to work for like the arts.
No, it's definitely it's less curated, which I actually like. I loved Instagram when Instagram was like in its heyday, and it was really like about creating art, and like the algorithms weren't like making things so difficult, and you could really like kind of connect with people through that and share your creations. But now it's just Instagram has changed so much, and everything feels so kind of like contrived there now, I think. But
Well, I guess I'm having a new relationship to it as well.
yeah,
Especially because I just launched Held Gear on there, and uh, like I all the communication for this event that I just did participated in selling as a vendor has been on Instagram, and all the artists who are behind all the other stuff, they're on Instagram. So to me, I'm actually developing a whole new local community on Instagram,
yeah,
and my national community on Twitter.
yeah.
It's kind of working out like that.
Twitter,
Um,
I feel like Twitter is the best for like connecting with people that think like you, and really kind of like connecting with people in a really interesting way that's not so much about like curating something, or like it's just like your thoughts and thinking on your feet and kind of instantly interacting with people in that way. So it's different, you
yeah,
know.
let's get into your story up leading up to 2020, all that space between whenever you began and 2020, because I'd imagine that you were a liberal leaning type person there in LA.
Never.
No, never.
No.
Okay. Born and raised in LA?
I was born and raised in LA.
What neighborhood?
What?
What neighborhood?
I was born in the Valley, Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills. I just for the record, I lived from age 18 to 20 in Canoga Park,
Oh, okay. Not
and
far.
I worked at the Starbucks in Granada Hills, and then I moved to a cafe in Northridge on Reseda Boulevard. So I spent a
Nice.
lot of time there in that valley and drove around it a lot. Went to a college in North Hollywood called Soundmaster.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was 2 years of my life, the first 2 adult years of my life. I was not born in LA. I was born in Santa Barbara. But anyway, would like to let you continue.
Okay.
So,
How far back do you want me to go?
well, so I mean, what were you, was this the 80s and 90s? We don't have to pinpoint it if you don't want
The
to.
80s. I was born in
Okay.
the 80s.
So that's like Valley Girl of the 80s.
Mhm.
You're born into that.
I grew up in the 90s. I was definitely a 90s kid.
Yeah.
Um, I grew up like my parents have always been like opposites. Like my mom was a Democrat, my dad was a Republican, and so that was always like a point of contention and issue in our household, and they fought about it a lot. And so I think like from a very young
Wow.
age, I had like a really negative view of like what politics was, but I was also like really intrigued by it.
It
Like
was Facebook every day in your house.
it was. And I think that as I started to get older and I started to get introduced to concepts like having to pay taxes, and like I asked a lot of questions when I was a little kid. Like I was like, why do we have to do this? Why does it have to be this way? And nobody could ever really give me a straight answer other than that's just the way it is. That's the way society functions. And that was never like a good enough answer for me. And so I kind of like pursued this desire to understand things better as I got older. And I ended up going to college and getting a degree in political science in comparative politics, just trying to kind of understand how different governments around the world and throughout history have formed and how they function, and what's been like the pros and the cons to different kinds of systems and things like that. And when I left college, I was kind of like leaning towards the viewpoint that I felt like it was possible for humans to create some sort of system that actually benefited humanity and actually did good things for people, and was like a positive system that could help people. And I ended up becoming friends really quickly out of college with someone who's still a very close friend of mine, but he was already like on the Ron Paul train, like libertarian and like introduced me to like all of these views and the theories behind them and like all this stuff. And I got really into it and started like listening to a bunch of people who had interesting libertarian viewpoints and things to say. And I just really resonated with it. And the concept of kind of voluntary interaction is at the basis of everything I do. I don't believe that like anyone should feel trapped or forced or obligated to do anything. And that's kind of, I think, even the foundation of like what I teach as a yoga teacher is like freeing yourself from mental slavery in a sense. So yeah, it all just kind of has formed from there.
So what was the religious situation in your household?
I was not brought up religious at all. Oh wait, hold on, my computer's doing something.
Don't let it update, for God's sake.
Okay, my religious situation, I wasn't brought up religious at all. Neither of my parents were brought up religious. I used to go to Catholic church with my neighbors because I liked it. It was like a social thing for me. I liked because my neighbors had a daughter who was my age, and I liked the like dressing up and like going to the Sunday school and being social. But it was never like a religious thing for me. It was just like me needing to have like a social outing of my own on Sundays. And my mom was like, "Fine, go be Catholic. That's fine."
Very open-minded. It must have like, if your folks are, it's so weird to me that they would like marry each other and then want to keep arguing about politics.
Oh my God. Well,
it's so weird. But it must have sort of forced kind of an open-minded household or something somehow. There must have been something positive about that.
Well, we've always been like a family that's like, we're all very good communicators. And like, obviously sometimes that can be like a really great thing because you get things out in the open, you work through things, you know, nothing's like kind of hidden away in the shadows or like repressed or whatever. But at the same time, like if you get a bunch of different people who have a lot to say and have a lot of opinions, of course there's going to be arguments and there's going to be like fights and disagreements and all this kind of stuff. So there was like the two sides to it.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like
too. It got like 1,000 times worse during Trump. That really took my parents to a whole new level.
Wow. Are they still together?
They are still together.
Good for them.
They survived Trump.
So they're both like really into being Republican or Democrat.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't break the spell for them, can you? Parents can be so
No.
They don't want to learn from their kids.
Well, my dad and I have like very in-depth, great conversations, and my dad and I see eye to eye on a lot of things. But my dad still, I think it's just, you know, I think it's something that's just like kind of if it's been ingrained in you for so long, this idea that like, yeah, we can talk in theory about like freedom or like a system beyond like what exists, but in reality, the system does exist. And so I have to choose a side and I choose this side. And so that's kind of like my dad's mentality about like being a Republican is he thinks that is the only choice that can be made is like, it's a better choice than like being a Democrat. Like that's kind of his perspective. But my mom, no, there's absolutely no getting through to her.
They both, right. I mean, just to have it, just let it be chill and civil, I think is the main thing. I'm experiencing that more with my mother these days. And I brought them to the dark side. I brought them from, I brought them to Barack Obama from Bush. Everybody was sick of Bush, so it was pretty easy to get people away from the Republicans around the time of Obama.
Mm-hmm.
But now they are, especially my mother, it's just very difficult to talk about any of that stuff. And I'm now, well, so I guess I always thought of myself as a pretty radical leftist, but then when my values came tested, the civil libertarian probably is the strongest position from the left that I still hold. that is accepted by the right. And I guess now I've lost the faith. I've lost all faith in the government to run programs. So I don't want to give them any money to run programs. But I remember back when I got my first like like anarcho-communist type literature, which is like worker ownership, community governance, community cooperation, that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I think I'm coming back to that as well. And that happened, I remember this little anarchist girl gave me, not little anarchist girl, that's a terrible thing to say. Like, that's a demeaning thing to say. We were both little at the time. This anarchist girl that I liked, we hung out a little bit. She gave me this book by Crime, I think. We were both working at Starbucks. It was like such an immature attitude when you're like wanting to fuck over your employer or whatever. Like, you still work for them. Just because you think of yourself as an anarchist, the employer is a proxy for the state, and if you work for a big employer like that, any employer is a proxy for the state, right? Because you've had to do some certifications, right, to
Mhm.
become a yoga instructor. Boom, you become a proxy of the state. You've legitimized the state's like power there, right?
Well,
And I'm not criticizing you, but we have to do what we have to do.
I haven't, there's no like legal certification to become a yoga teacher or anything like that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
A fitness instructor?
I think to be like a personal trainer, yes, but not to be a yoga instructor. I don't think that studios would hire you necessarily if you didn't have like there's like accredited programs like that certify teacher trainings, but it's not like a legal certification.
Okay. Well, but you get my point. There's jobs, and anytime you have to register your business, you're doing this, and you're giving legitimacy to the state and all this. So we're always a proxy to the state, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but I guess I'm curious how this all threads, because you went into college, you wanted to study politics, and that's what we're really chewing on right now. But somehow you've found spirituality and yoga. And I read that you were a dancer.
Mhm.
You did ballet.
Yes.
So when did you do ballet?
I did ballet through my whole childhood. I danced professionally as a child. And
Professionally?
yes.
Elaborate, please.
I danced with professional companies in child roles. I danced with pre-professional companies for professional companies as a child. So they'll like recruit teenagers to kind of like satellite dance for the companies, start to like prepare them to dance professionally. I've done like commercials, modeling, things like that. I had like a whole career as like a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reached a certain point when I was like 19 where I kind of just I guess I got burned out on it, I would say. And I sort of didn't want to do it anymore. And then I kind of took a year to just figure out what I was going to do, and then ended up going to college.
I feel some tension still about it in you. Like, are they pretty tough on these kids? Can it get pretty so-called toxic for these kids?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I mean, you're constantly being told like you're not good enough, that like I never got the whole fat thing because I wasn't fat when I was a kid. I was like naturally very skinny, but I was around it with like people I was friends with and things like that, where you're constantly being told you're too fat. It's like and it's just very cutthroat, very competitive, a lot of politics, especially in like the children's world, because it's like if your parents have money, then they have influence, and like so you have to contend with that. And it's like you're being told that you're not good enough for something when you know the truth is really that someone else's parents had the money to like get them the part or whatever it is. And so it just becomes a lot. And it's like when you love something, like for me, I love dancing more than anything. It's how I express myself. And when you're sharing yourself in a vulnerable way, doing something that you love, when you're constantly being told it's not good enough, it's bad, it's wrong in some way, it starts to like kill your passion for it a little bit. And you're just like, okay, well, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like, it makes it not fun.
Yeah, there's got to be a more positive way to do that.
I'm
Um,
sure it's probably changed, like most things have changed.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot a lot of industries are like less abusive now than they used to be. And like when I was a kid, my teachers were like my ballet teacher was like 85 and she was one of George Balanchine's original muses. And so she came from a life where she was 13 years old drinking martinis and chain smoking cigarettes and like corseting her waist and like so she just came from a different time completely. And it's like that whole generation of teachers has died out now. And it's like I think as generations progress, everything now is like we have to handle everyone with like soft kid gloves almost to like it's gone to like a whole other extreme now.
right.
But
The pro-
everyone gets the gold star, everyone gets the part, everyone it's like everyone has to like get the chance now.
yeah, and there's an organic version of that, and then there's a forced version of that, and I think it's very easy to do it organically. To you know, for example, I'm going to be I'm not trying to self promote, but I'm going to need models for these belts, right? If I'm going to sell I don't know if you've seen that, but I sell belts. So I'm going to need models to sell belts. And I don't want a bunch of skinny girls or like great looking muscular guys. I don't know. I want every average person. I think that's an organic way to do it. It's a professional decision. It's an aesthetic decision. It's all of that. But yeah, it seems like it just got sanitized. That overly skinny models were the thing. And when I go to see dance shows, I've seen at least 100 dance shows in my life. Most of them are not traditional ballet. It's like girls that were raised in ballet, guys who were raised in ballet, but they became contemporary dancers.
Yeah.
You aren't raised in contemporary dance. Like you got to get through some ballet first.
Yeah.
Typically, the people I see, they're like 20 years old. They start dancing when they're 20, and they get into contemporary. They don't really develop that real strong grace. They just do wild movements, and it's fun, and interesting. But it's not that really amazing, graceful work that comes with that discipline, which is hard. And so you do need a teacher that's going to let you know it's hard and let you accept the pain of it on some level. I'm an advocate for paying dancers 100,000 a year, uh, ballerinas at least. I feel like they end up making 30,000 a year if they professional or something. You know what I mean?
It depends where they dance and like how far up they move, but there's definitely the thing with ballet is that it's so technical and so disciplined. And so if you have a background in ballet, you can do any type of dance from there. It's like it's an understanding of kind of giving a language to dance that like you can build anything on top of that. Like there used to be this dance show, So You Think You Can Dance, and you could always see like they would cast a whole range of people, but the ballet dancers always won that show because it's like if you have that foundational technique and the discipline to learn it, any other type of dance, it's like just builds on top of that.
And yoga as well, I would imagine.
So yoga is completely different in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Like
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
everything in ballet is like the opposite of what your body is like naturally made to do. Yoga is every position, every alignment of the body is meant to feel good in your body, to be healing, to be beneficial to your body. So it's kind of like the opposite of what ballet is. Ballet is like we're gonna take your legs and we're gonna rotate them in the opposite direction of how they actually are in their hip sockets. So
Yeah, yeah.
yoga for me was like such a blessing when I found it because I was like, oh my God, I can like move and express energy through my body, which is absolutely essential for me to do. It's like I can't live if I'm not doing that. But it's like I can do it in this way that feels so good and is like taking care of my body. And it really was like a godsend for me when I found yoga.
That makes sense. I mean, that's what you said on your website. It was a healing thing, healing from the emotional trauma, probably too.
It was, yeah. I mean, there was a large gap between being a dancer and finding like my very consistent yoga practice. I think was probably like maybe almost 10 years. Like there was a large gap, and in that time between, there was a lot that went on in my life, a lot of like craziness that I had to go through. And so when I found yoga, it was like I finally had found not just this movement practice that made me feel so good, but it was like a community of people that were healthy, which was really something that I was lacking in my life at that time. And it just completely shifted my mindset of like, oh, like I can take care of myself and feel good and be around these other people that just want to like enjoy life and feel good in their bodies. And it kind of like really shifted a lot of things from where I was at that point in my life.
That's good. So this is like your mid 20s or so.
Yeah.
Um, did you always stay in the LA?
Pretty much. I went to college in Orange County, so I lived in Orange County for a few years. And I did my first yoga teacher training in Mexico, and so I was living in Mexico for a few months when I did that. But no, I've only really like consistently, other than Orange County, lived in LA.
Um, do you are you how's that going now? Do you enjoy LA today?
I have like mixed feelings about it. Like, I love that my family is here. It would be really hard for me to leave my family. I also really love my house that I live in.
Hi,
So,
Forest Mommy.
oh, hi. um, so yeah, I love where I live, and I love like what I've kind of built, and I really love like my career here and stuff. But like I'm reaching a point where I'm starting to feel like I might want something different. Like I might see myself somewhere different. Like I don't love the traffic. I don't love the like what I see going on the streets outside and stuff. It's like tough. And I'm not so much into like having a social life like I once was. So I don't know. I could definitely see myself like doing something totally different and being happy, you know?
Yeah. Something will happen. Whatever is supposed to happen will happen. Of course, we do have to have intention to
Yes.
make change. But sometimes we make it too abruptly and it's not natural and then our life falls apart. We don't want to do that. And I mean, I've just done that myself too many times. So I was about to do it again. I was like, I'm feeling that I don't really like the traffic here in Philly. I don't like the filth. We have one of the most famous drug markets in the world here.
Is that Kensington?
Yeah, you've heard of it. You've
Yeah.
heard of it. That's like my normal. I bike and drive through there all the time.
No.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like my yoga studio is like right in the heart of Skid Row. And when I go down there, I'm just like, it's a lot. Like it's starting to really be a lot for me.
I
Where
know.
why am I putting myself into this energy, which I really don't like? It's really challenging for me.
Let it be challenging, but don't resist it at all. Is my recommendation. Is all because
I mean,
like
I've been teaching there for several years, and I've
yeah, yeah,
seen it. I've gone through like a lot of iterations, but I'm reaching like a point now where I'm like, I actually I don't have to do this anymore.
correct,
I don't
correct.
want to, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I understand that my situation in life is temporary, but I'm blessed not to be living like that or in that neighborhood. I mean, there's people that are moving into that neighborhood because it's getting increasingly trendy. So that zone is being squeezed into a tighter and tighter area, or in some cases up toward my neighborhood, which was more of a relief from all that before because I live by a park and stuff, but it's still very dense North Philly living, my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not totally the hood, it's not totally not the hood. And I'm okay with it for now because it's part of a plan. It's part of equity. I'm building equity. I've got stuff like that. So I don't want to be biking through that area forever. And I don't want that area to be like that forever. I'd like to see more things change,
Yeah.
for God's sake, not just get pushed around, but really change. I mean, from a libertarian perspective, making those drugs legal or it would probably not hurt in terms of the kind of criminal element that comes with it. You know, the gang element. Basically, the gangsters live around me and they sell the drugs down there, right? That's basically kind of. But the gangsters traditionally like to keep their neighborhood safer. They don't want that action in their neighborhood. Any thoughts on that?
Uh,
Yeah, I'm not making Philly sound appealing to you. I don't know where you want to go. Hopefully, you go somewhere where it's really exactly what you need. Something quiet. Sounds like you need some like space from urban areas. I don't know. Like people are going to Tennessee a lot. Have you looked into Tennessee?
I have not. I have some friends from Tennessee. I've heard like good things about it. I don't know. I There was a time where I was spending like quite a bit of time just up the coast in California in Solvang. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
Yeah,
I
and that I was just thinking about solving. Isn't
yeah,
that they have the windmills? It's like a Dutch. It's or
it's
right?
really cute.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I
even
was
like
I was
I,
reading about how back in the day there were whole towns being built with these kind of themes,
mhm,
European themes to attract certain settlers.
yeah,
Scandinavian would be. When I was a kid, we used to go to a place in Santa Barbara called Scandies, and it was a Scandinavian buffet. I, I just can't forget like the artwork on the wall with the big gnome eyes and stuff, the gnomes. But yeah, solving. And anyways, what were you saying about solving? I'm kind of
well,
in the
I
loose talk section of the hour.
I was dating someone who lived up there, and he lived on a really beautiful property with like nobody around. And that was really the appeal of it for me, was like I would just go up there and it would just be so nice to like be so far from other people. Like I've found that my journey with teaching has been like kind of, it's been a really healing process. It's been like a very cleansing process, and it goes through kind of like these cycles. And the more that I teach, and the more that I like grow as a teacher, the more sensitive I become. And so it's like I've had to be really mindful of like the energy that I bring into my space and the energy that I'm around. And like I get more and more and more and more sensitive the more I do it. And so being in a city like LA, it's like a lot of energy, a lot, and I'm very sensitive to it. And so when I go somewhere where I actually have like open space and I can just be contained in my own energy, is when I feel the best. Like I just got back from doing a retreat in Joshua Tree this past week, and it's just so nice to like be out in the desert and be away from the city and just be in my own energy and kind of work with that, you know?
Um, well, I'm not going to ignore this comment because I think it's a little rude. Um, so this is ephemeral perennial. I think he's been here before and was dropping a lot of comments and is upset that I didn't respond to them before. So I'm just going to address it and say I'll do my best to respond to comments. So far, we've only had Forest Mommy, and we said hi back. So we feel good about her and good about that, and we hope you will enjoy this show. Thanks. Anyway, so I I do want to get better as an interviewer of like going back and forth and listening, but also interjecting a lot because you can get people just going on, or I could find myself just going on, and it's really delicate balance doing the live stream.
It's interesting, like, because I can't even see the comments, so it's not like it's, interactive unless, I don't know.
Are you sure you can't see it on the have the option on the right side of your screen? There's like a chat bubble. You don't get to see that?
Oh, okay. Okay, now I can see it if I open this thing up.
There you
Well, I
go.
have to put my glasses on,
Uh-oh. Well, that's I understand that problem. I don't like to wear my glasses during the live stream either, but I see well enough. Are you using your phone or using like a laptop?
I'm using my laptop.
Okay. So you don't see that good.
Well, if I also have the ring light on, and so when
Uh-huh.
I put my glasses on, it like reflects the light, but no, it is hard for me to see on screens is when I use my glasses the most. Like if I needed to read something, I would have to get a lot closer to the screen if I didn't have my glasses on.
I just got a ring light.
Yeah.
I was in like a discount shop, like a liquidation store. Philly's got all these like weird little liquidation stores where just the random stuff. And it was $10 and it came with like other little tripod pieces.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it. $10. To me this light is the best I've ever had. Do I look all right?
You look good. It's good
Thank
lighting.
you. It's almost too bright, but yeah, I should go get another one. Make a whole business of reselling. Anyway, you're talking about solving where you want to go. Are you actually thinking about going there? Because it's probably incredibly expensive,
It is
right?
incredibly expensive. I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a plan. I want to go visit Forest Mommy in Colorado. I have a lot of friends in Colorado, so that's like definitely a place that I would consider. Um, I don't know. I just kind of am like waiting to see what unfolds in my life over the next few months, and I know it'll all kind of like make sense when it's meant to. That's usually how my life has worked out. Like things have always just kind of come into alignment.
But
So
you feel something coming. You feel an intersection.
I do.
You do. Interesting. Um, yeah, I just met an intersection, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of just on the freeway going, all right, let's see where this one goes. I thought I was gonna just go get a full-time job, buy some land north of Philly, but I've just dropped that plan altogether, and I think I just have to wait to see, because this business, starting this business is but it's forced me to love Philly. I was really resisting Philly. It's not my town, but I never want to go back to live unless I'm a billionaire in California. And even then, I'm not sure what foods. The vibe that I had in the 80s and 90s was much more my what I feel like out here, kind of
Hmm.
like. I just don't think California, the West Coast, is what it was. That's all.
Yeah.
So I think you have to find that new energy somewhere else. Like not you in particular, but I think when people want to find that West Coast energy or like start a new life, it's not in. It shouldn't be probably in Portland or Seattle or LA or San Francisco.
Yeah.
The kids are moving to these different places now,
Hmm.
right? Or they move into Portland. Do they still think Portland's cool? Do people in LA still think Portland's cool?
I don't think people in LA ever thought Portland was cool.
Right. Well,
I,
then why did all the LA people like me move there
I think that people, I feel like most people who leave LA go to Austin.
these days? Yeah.
It's like the number one, that or Miami now. A lot of people are like leaving for Miami.
What about Joshua Tree?
I mean, Joshua Tree is cool, but like you're still in California, right? It's still
Mm,
kind of, it's a little bit of an LA like enclave in certain ways.
Florida.
I couldn't just live permanently in the desert like that, I don't think. It's a little
Yeah.
bit, it's like I feel like this is gonna sound weird when I say that, but there's like a reason old people move there. It's kind of like a place to,
Florida.
no, the desert.
Oh, right. Like Tucson, where my folks live.
Probably, but not Miami for sure.
I got a party in Tampa. I got to find out what that's like over there. I got an uncle in Florida. I try to visit. I just take advantage of that and visit. Now that I'm out here, well, I should be saying back here because it's back east and out west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Florida in a while, but I do want to go to Miami soon.
Do you?
So, yeah.
I just when I last year when I went to Florida, everybody said stay out of Miami, and I'm like, but I want to go, and they're like, don't go. I'm like, all right. I just listen. I try to listen to my friends, you know, when they say don't do it, but I kind of regret it because I didn't. Actually, I ended up partying in Sebring, right there where my uncle is, which has a famous racetrack. But there was a band called Hard Candy. It was just a cover band playing in this roadhouse type bar with a bunch of like baby boomers in leather jackets and motorcycles. And they closed the whole night playing Rage Against the Machine, and everybody was into it. I loved it, dude. I had a great time partying right there in that little town. But anyway, so you'll find your path. You'll follow your heart. Do you follow your heart?
I do.
When did you discover your heart?
I think that I've always been a very heart-centered person, and I think that I shoved it down and rejected that aspect of myself for a while and tried to fit into kind of like an egocentric world, probably for like the first part of my like adolescence into adulthood. I really was like trying to force myself to be someone that I wasn't, just to kind of like conform or fit in. But I would say that I came back to myself and kind of started unlearning and like re-becoming myself probably when I found like my yoga practice and really started consistently practicing yoga. And then there's been like several processes of awakening along that journey. Like I would say that I was kind of conducting myself in relationships with men in a certain way for a long time. And then I kind of had this moment where I was like, this isn't, because I think we're taught all these things that like things are supposed to be this certain way and you're supposed to act in this certain way. And it always felt very not in alignment with my true nature. And it, you know, a sequence of certain things that happened in my life made me realize like, actually, like, I'm going to go about the way I interact with men and other people in a totally different way and do what actually is like true to myself and my heart. And that completely changed things for me. And now I would say that I try to live from my heart, like as much as possible now. And, you know,
let's explore what that means, because I'm new to that. I've been living very much with my head in control, although I realized how much my heart was yearning to be in the I don't know, free. I've always been like a very like puppy doggish guy, like wanting to be part of things and be part of just to, I don't know, I've always been like a very like excited, happy person with people, except that I've been abused by, like, not physically. I didn't have that growing up in any fashion, but just various like social levels of abuse. Most of my life, I've really encountered a lot of that difficulty, especially being a pretty different person and not really knowing how to relate to most people, which is part of the journey of my childhood and stuff, which is we kind of talked about on with Forest Mommy about Scientology and stuff, which comes up in themes in this channel. But like, in a nutshell, it made me socially stupid, I guess. And so always being weird, and then having a temper, maybe that developed a temper, just being a frustrated kind of person. I don't know, but in this last like year, partially through yoga and other factors surrounding my life with that, and what caused that final burst that final door to open through my heart and just allow it to freely flow. Now the head following the heart makes sense, and now the connection from the gut to the head makes sense. But without the heart, it just all seems blocked, and you're just going to be a broken clock in life.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and it's nice that you've kind of come into those realizations. And yoga really is like a beautiful pathway to that, because it's just like coming home to yourself. It's like what I always say to my students is that it's like a practice of self-inquiry, of self-awareness. Awareness is always our first step towards anything, whether it's change, whether it's acceptance, whether it's whatever it is. It's like you have to become aware of it first. And yoga is like this beautiful way of like showing up for yourself and being present with yourself, learning to listen to yourself, trust yourself, give yourself the space to grow and to evolve and change, and hold space for the entirety of your experience, and the experience of being present within your body and present with yourself. And I think that that's like what you said about kind of like the heart being closed off. I think so many people, because of like the pain they've experienced, because of the abuse that they've experienced, they completely shut down that part of themselves, and they just try to like intellectualize their way through life, or have this like logical approach to life, or create all these kind of like boundaries, restrictions, walls, where I think having an open heart and living from your heart is being open. It's being compassionate. It's being loving. Like one thing that most, like, obviously I'm not going to talk for all yoga teachers, but most yoga teachers that I know will say the same thing, where they say, I love everybody. And it's true. Like, I really do love everybody. I may not love everybody like I'm going to fall in love and make out with everybody, but like I genuinely do come from a place of love with every single person that I interact with. I want to come from a place of love. I want to be open. I want to exchange love. I want to be a force of love in the world. And like that has come from like this process of like letting down my walls and like working through my pain, working through like my limiting beliefs and the challenges that I've gone through in my life. And I think when you're an open person, life can flow through you, and we're constantly like trying to control. So like trying to intellectualize, trying to be like, making sense, or needing to know how things are going to be, we create resistance, right? So when we can kind of balance those things out and like let life flow through us, then things kind of flow effortlessly, and we live in a space of trust with ourselves, with life, with the universe. And it's just a different way of living, really, which is not what we're taught. Like we're kind of taught to be in control, to be like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like, it's not the natural way of like being in our society. Our society is like, go, 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 do, have, like create, like, a lot of things in like the 3-dimensional world that you can say like, I have this tangible thing and that represents success to me, so like I've made it. Whereas like for me, success is like, oh, I've cultivated peace within myself, I'm peaceful, like I'm unattached, I feel light, and that's not really what we like necessarily are taught to value or to go after. I know I just went on like a long.
No, I mean, I think that's good. I think you summarized a lot that like I've been noticing. A pretty good summary seems. Yeah, I don't know where to jump in from there at that point, because I kind of had a few thoughts, and now they're all jumbled up. It's identity. That's what it was I wanted to comment with. It's identity, and we're very much focused on identity these days. It's become the and the way that kids are told to develop their identity is very sneaky way of colonizing basically people. This dude I used to sit at a diner with in Portland, who would challenge me a lot, but he gave me a lot of ideas, and which was the simulacra, which is not his idea, but it's just like we're not living in a world in itself or of itself. We're living in a world of representations of a world. And we're turning ourselves into representations of selves, and that benefits a neoliberal system of colonization. That the social media, as much as what you and I are doing right now, is an example of the good aspect of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the potential of a friendship over time. We've also just done good by doing this talk. And I think that's content that was developed because of the miracle of Twitter. But also Twitter is like a simulacra of a social life, a simulacra of a world. And we sort of define ourselves by these systems, and these systems are a form of colonization because the world's it's been colonized. So now this is the new version of it. And so this neoliberal, like, create people out of people, create products out of people, make people into products, make the people the product. You think you're consuming Twitter, it's consuming you. Mm-hmm. Unless you make it work for you. In which case you're still making it work for them. Mm-hmm. But I don't mind a symbiotic system like that. I don't mind that. We can make it symbiotic. So I'm not, it's just complex, you know. Yeah. But yeah, we're so I think it's just interesting that we're getting into this identity thing right at the time that profiles become something we enter into before we're adults. We all have a profile. And I was very early on that. I remember ICQ. Do you remember ICQ? Mm-mm. I got on ICQ in like 1998, and I was finding girls and around Arizona, on ICQ. It was like early social media. Everybody had a profile, favorite this and that, and you could find people and just friend them and start talking. Yeah, that was I didn't do well with girls, by the way. That's taken some time. But yeah, so it was like I've always been like that too. Like I'm the first generation. I'm like the youngest adult to have that normalized, or the oldest adult to have that normalized in my youth.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like a little crazy. I had to work really hard to decondition my identity.
I mean, I think everything, like all of this, like video games, the metaverse, like creating personas on social media, all of this stuff, like really functions to take you out of your experience of being in your body, to take you out of like sovereignty over your consciousness. And I think that it is like attachment to all of these ideas about who you are, and like holding on to all these things. And really, like I've said this, like I say this a lot, said this on Forest Mommy's podcast, but it's like I feel like at the root of everything is that we're so afraid of like facing our own mortality. And it's like something that is not at all present in our society, is like making people come to terms with the fact that they will die someday. And so it's like everything from the beauty industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, every single thing is built to like feed into this idea that people can like run from that or escape that or like not face that in some way. And it's given them the ability to really, I feel like, control people and like have this matrix system that people keep buying into, because they can't handle, like, if you pull the thread, or it's like it's all built on a house of cards. If you like knock one of the cards away, their entire concept, it's like going back to what we were saying at the beginning about my mom. It's like I'll never get through to my mom, because if my mom starts to question anything, the entire foundation of her perceived reality will crumble, and she needs to feel like she is safe in her belief. She needs to feel that. And so many people, we learned that through COVID. It's like so many people need to feel like the government is keeping me safe. I am safe because of this system. And when you start to poke a hole in it or you start to pull the thread, they freak out and they cannot handle it at all, you know?
Yeah, I think you've hit a point there. It's that's how dark the magic is. They'll put these events out there. They'll do these things to reveal and make it so obvious that the shadows hands at work. And that's even by design, because it gets people split up and attached to one position or the other. Did we or did we not go to the moon? Did we or did we not have thermite inside of the World Trade Center? Did we or did we not create this in a lab? Let it go on purpose or not? Just keep those linchpins in place. They want them linchpins. They're installing them linchpins. They're drilling those linchpins with they're drilling those holes themselves. So
that's the thing I wish more people realized, is that like real freedom, it comes down to like you as a sovereign individual. How are you showing up in the world? How is your mind? What are you creating? Like that all starts like from within you. And the more like you set yourself free, the more everything around you begins to like shift and change. And that's really what matters, is like what you're creating in your own life. Like you can get online and be a keyboard warrior all you want, you know, and yeah, like of course there are people out there that are making a difference, but you've got to also be like walking the walk, right?
yeah, and you only see it, you can't and feel it. Oh man, yeah, I don't know. I've been feeling lately some positive vibes, and just like it's like, I don't know, when you put yourself out there, because I'm kind of facing this now. When you put yourself out there, what was your? This might be our last question. When you put yourself out there and started like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try. I don't know. I guess you became a Twitter hit by accident, but when you started feeling that success and people liked you, and you were picking up 5 figures in followers, and now you're feeling like kind of little bit of a celebrity, maybe some. You get your ego. You got to watch your ego, getting pumped. But at the same time, if you don't have a stable ego like myself, I couldn't accept any good things that happened in my life. I've been through all this stuff. I've had all these wonderful opportunities, people, collaborations, big projects I've done and things. And I think I've burned all these. I've just torched a lot of it because my ego is so delicate. And so Philly's like my fresh start. And then the other night, I was out. I don't know. It's just after this event, this company, the brand is a hit. People are into it, and I'm like struggling a lot with the idea that people will like it and like me, and that I can be successful, and that I'm these like all of this is just like accepting the love of anybody is fucking hard. Actually, you have to break through a lot of shit to accept any love.
Yes. If you have spent your life at war with yourself, believing yourself unworthy, you will sabotage anything that does not reflect that back to you. And that's why your inner world and the way you interact with yourself, the way you think, the way you speak to yourself, your self concept and the way you view yourself is going to completely change and affect everything that's reflected back to you in the external. And so if you don't believe you're deserving of good things, if you don't believe you're worthy, of course you're going to manifest like that being reflected back to you. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? And so I've seen that a lot in a lot of people, that kind of like self-sabotage because of like feelings of unworthiness and stuff. I think like where I'm at in my life now, I've been doing like what I'm doing for so long that like I have like a pretty healthy, like I would say a very healthy self-concept, and like if I had come into some sort of like internet fame like 10 years ago, I probably would have really embarrassed myself. It wouldn't have been good for me then. But like now, I can handle it, you know?
Things happen when they happen, and when they need to happen. I believe that. I have to believe it, I guess.
Twitter, I will say, you have to have a thick skin to have a big account on Twitter. And I don't even get bad. Like, most of the stuff that I get is rare, and it's also, for the most part, usually makes me laugh. But, like, people will be mean to you on Twitter. Like, people do not care. I also have a theory that Twitter has, like, bots that are created to, like, abuse you. They're like not real people, that they literally know exactly what to say that's gonna like get you. Like, I'm 100% convinced that exists like on Twitter, because it keeps people like engaged in a weird way. It's like this weird toxic thing, but like I don't know. You have to have a thick skin. The bigger your account gets, you have to like know how to like not take things personally. You have to like just laugh at other people. Like sometimes you're just like, wow, you really said that. Like you really said that to a stranger on their selfie. Like that's on you. That's not on me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be something. I mean, heck, yeah, I posted a selfie one time and people hurt my feelings. Like just because my shirt was like open. It was like, come on, really? You're just going after me because my shirt's open.
It's like yeah. To do.
Yeah, I think, and plus we need to celebrate men more. Men don't get enough appreciation for looking good, and honest to God, I mean that, because women get all the glory, and women love following each other. Women follow beautiful women more than men follow beautiful women. Men are like, I can't handle too many beautiful women on my feed. But women can't have enough of it. So that's what I've seen, what I noticed. Anyway, yeah, okay, so we've done an hour. I feel like there's room for more talk, which means we can do this again if you're open to that.
Yeah, I love that.
Check on what's happening, where you're living in a few months.
Yep.
Or whatever life is up to. And if you'll stick on the stream for a minute, you want to, or not on, just don't hang up, okay? I'm going to let go of this, okay? And tell us where we can find you one more time.
So it's A State of Emily, so like a state of trance or whatever, but A State of Emily. And that's my handle on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and also my website, astateofemily.com.
Groovy. All right, it's been wonderful having you, Emily. Thank you so much.
Having me.
Okay. You heard it. That was Emily. Wonderful time. I hope you were inspired. I am. I appreciate her energy and her focus, what she's doing to put herself out there and take the risk of being out there. And, you see a lot of people with great talent who are not willing to take those risks. So it should inspire anybody, really. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this and look forward to, right now I have, I guess I can announce it. I've got Chris Neff scheduled. He's a comedian also in LA, Orange County. And I listen to his show, the Cash It Addicts podcast, for some absurd financial advice. And with that, I'm just going to let you all go. See you next time. I love you. Be happy.